Hey boys and girls, I'm back and I'm not happy. I'm going to read something off from Missy Cummings. This is an exceedingly alarmist view of overprivileged, narcissistic, and insecure white men who need to assure themselves that they're part of something greater good and they're here to save us from the folly that they've created. The only killer robot out there is Elon Musk, Tesla. You know, I don't understand how things happen, but they do. And we have a new sheriff in town, and she is the hired gun for the Luddites of mediocrity. They're going to be marching under the standard of Save the Children, which is the standard way that all politicians try and get every fool under the sun to say, oh yeah, that must be right. The real statement behind, in this case, think of the children, is going to be no U.S. OEM left behind. How puerile can you get? If we just hold Tesla back, GM, Ford, and all the others, Toyota, whatever, they'll be able to catch up. You know what? Most people that watch this watch football as well. How many times does any coach tell his team to, well, don't let the guy who's the best quarterback throw. Let's put in the water boy or something. That isn't the way it works. And I'm not a fan of political checker players, especially when our real problem is China. Do you think for a second that China's going to be holding back on ADAS? Are we going to give that away as well? I mean, really, how many innovators have we got out there in all the auto companies? The politicians have dropped the ball on every worldly event. There's no question in my mind. The let's drive the smart company out of business will keep the American people from seeing what's really going on in D.C. They are dropping the ball on everything, and this is just another subterfuge to try and disassociate Americans from being united. Let's talk about how China is beating our government like a rented mule. Do you know China has almost all of the battery manufacturing? That's battery cells. Now, when you hear the news, you hear, oh, GM has got a new battery plant. Ford is going to get a battery plant, blah, blah. You know what? There are no cells made here. You can have a battery pack with nothing in it, but you can't have the cells because they're not made here. Why? Well, that was because they've all been shipped offshore to China. We don't want to be in that messy kind of business. If we continue down the path that we've been going on, there'll be nothing left. For instance, take a look at your appliances at home. None of them are made here. They're almost all made in China. I know because I spent 3 months a year in China from 2015 to 2020, ramping up plant after plant sent to China by Harvard MBAs. And by the way, you probably already know, DC's loaded with Harvard MBAs. Most of the people that are elected officials are Harvard MBAs, or Harvard lawyers, even worse. China just sent a hypersonic missile around the world. It missed its target by a mere 200 miles. That's ponderous. We have nothing that goes that fast, and we have no way of shooting a missile like that down. And what do we get instead? Let's pick on somebody else as a subterfuge. You got no chips? Oh, there's no chips to build cars here. Why is that? Well, that's because China makes them, and China's not giving them out. China wants Taiwan. Oh yeah. All you got to do is pick up the cover of this magazine, Week magazine, and there's what's happening. But do the American people know about it? No. They hear about, oh, these disastrous events that are happening with Tesla. Tesla's the only car company with anything as advanced as, as full self-driving. And DC is going to stop that? Let's look at the data that can be pulled from the NHTSA website. Let's start with vehicle deaths. From 2016 to present, 195,400 people have died in the US only. Let's take that same data and see what Tesla's done. Tesla death, same years, 2016 to present, but globally, that means around the world. That means the US, Canada, Mexico, South America, France, Germany, England, China, yes, and Japan, and everybody else included. Guess how many, boys and girls? 209. 209 versus 195,000. You know what that is in a percentage? That's 0.001%. 0.001%. And NHTSA is investigating Tesla? NHTSA has a long backlog of safety regulations not implemented. Let's start with the 30 million vehicles that were produced by 12 OEMs that still have unsafe airbags. How come they're not working on that? How come they're not working about the rear seat unbuckled system? If you have somebody sitting in the rear seat and they're not buckled up, they're running at risk. But you don't know, because in the two front seats, yes, a little light comes on. And it tells you whether or not somebody's got their seatbelt buckled. But who sits in the back seat? Who sits in your back seat? Is it grandma? Is it the kids? Are they the let's think of the children kind of folks? How come there's nothing like that? By the way, how many people die in collisions that are sitting in the rear seat? 800. Let's go back to that other number that I just said. How many was it that Tesla had? I mean, really? Really? 800 people die every year because there's no... By the way, there is one thing that you should know. I don't own a Tesla, but the company does. And if you don't buckle up in the back seat, a little bell starts ringing, and I see it on my instrument panel. How come Tesla is doing something that was supposed to be done by everybody, and they're the only ones that I know of that are doing it? How about the 2014 missed deadline on the child care seats? That's led to a Congressional Oversight Committee investigation since 2014. Where's the think of the children there? Huh? How about this? A little known fact about something called hide in the herd. Now, if you're not in the auto industry, or if you're not a stock market analyst, hide in the herd means probably nothing, but it works this way. If your company is called out first as having a recall, you have a potential of having 67% of your stock market penalty, a 67% chance of having a stock market penalty. In other words, if you're the first guy to across the finish line with an admission of guilt of some sort, then guess what? Everybody else comes together and they kind of like hide in the herd, and guess what? You get whacked because you were first and everybody else gets a free pass. So why is it that the DC thugs, are getting involved in this, trying to get a Tesla versus NHTSA investigation going? That's to manipulate the stock market in favor of the no OEM left behind approach. So why am I so pissed off? Let's hit the big ticket. Who is a follower of the Tesla Haters Short Sellers Club? That club has a designation. It's $TSLAQ. And a Q usually means sell or dead in the stock market world. So that's one thing. Then who's on the board and payroll of VEONEER? Voneer, a Swedish LiDAR company. Oh yeah, our friends there. She doesn't believe in Tesla. So let me read you something. Oh yeah, I love Tesla as a company. Electric cars are the future. But the hubris around what automation could do, especially a car that does not have LiDAR on it, worries me. Any car that hangs its hat on computer vision perception systems is terribly flawed. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I could have been dead, but in actuality, those flawed systems that she's talking about saved my life in the Tesla Model 3. If I was driving anything else, I'd be a dead man now. But this girl here is really, really smart. Missy and her anti-Tesla short seller buddies include such greats as Motorhead, Matt, I can't even read it, Vaccine Farga, and of course my all-time favorite, Montana Skeptic. I want to know how many guys he influenced to short sell and they wound up losing their ass. So my plea is not to the folks that are watching this. My plea is to the president. Mr. President, the mark of a true leader is when he makes a mistake, admits it, and takes corrective action. It's time to fire Missy before her sins become your downfall. Please consider that.